Ara is a sports presenter and Norwegian lug member who only discovered the LEGO community around 8 years ago before falling in deep. Ara now gives tours at the LEGO house where his involvement in the LEGO world keeps growing.
Welcome, Ara.
Thank you very much.
Can you please tell us a little bit about your role in the AFOL community?
I entered it about 8 years ago, I think. I went to the Skabek fan weekend in Denmark without having ever met a single adult fan of Lego. So I sort of entered with a boom, and my idea was that I'd go there and just have all my sort of preconceptions confirmed, that these were all bold, middle-aged, slightly overweight German guys who were interested in trains, and I'll just go there and say hi, and then come back to Norway and get back into my closet and lock the door, and that'll be it. And that's not exactly what happened. So I've been the ambassador for a short, brief period of time, which should have been shorter because I did a horrible job. I started doing some interviews, like talk shows, at our annual Norwegian event, which then have evolved into me doing it at other events, and then eventually hosting fan evenings in the Lego house.
You coming out of your Lego closet kind of escalated really quickly into all these other events.
In the beginning, when I went to conventions and events, I sort of stood by my table and presented my stuff and talked to people about that, which is okay, which is nice. But I've sort of discovered that more and more it's not what I bring, which is that is the point. It's the people I meet, and so I tend to try to spend less money, less time, less money as well, because it doesn't cost as much if you're not building, but less time standing at my table with my stuff, and more time talking to people, because there are so many nice people, and you meet them at events, and then you see them again.
I guess that's the thing. You're becoming quite famous in the Europe Lego world. Are you finding less time to mock now?
I think it's like a combination for me. I sort of have a feeling that I wish I had more time for mocking, but then again, I also really enjoy the community aspect of things.
You're almost an unofficial Lego staff member, really, with all of the things that you do around the world, especially when it comes to Lego House. So we know that you do a biannual kind of tour of Lego House, and we're curious, how did that come about?
When the Lego House staff were planning to do some fan evenings, they had looked at the idea behind what we were doing. Jan Bayer approached me and said, but you need to talk to the people in the Lego house, because I think you can offer something that they might be able to use. And then we sat down and had a conversation about it.
It must be fun being kind of an insider at Lego. Do they tell you any of their secrets?
Basically, because if you talk enough to a designer, he will, he by just a slip of the tongue, he will mention something that he thinks that everybody knows, but you don't necessarily do. So the clue to that is just to keep your mouth shut about anything that they might say, and just know. I know, which is good, but don't let anybody else know, because then that privilege might go away.
You are a great supporter of fairy bricks. So could you tell us a little bit about your most recent summer activities?
I'm assuming that people know what Fairbricks is in Australia as well. Yes.
And we'll be talking to Kevin as well, so he'll be giving us a little bit of a rundown.
Brilliant. So they reached out on social media saying most of our income normally comes from raffles and tombolas at events, and now there are no events, so that's a problem for us. If anybody is interested in doing any sort of stuff to raise money for us, we will give you a brick.
Well, there we go.
It says sponsored whatever. And I'm really fond of walking. I hate jogging and running, but I really like walking, so long distances. And I basically mapped out a route where I walk 10 kilometers and then get to like a supermarket. and then walk 10 kilometers into another supermarket so I could stop. And so I didn't have to carry food. I just had a camelback with water. And it went really, really well. And then when I got back home, I sort of posted on social media as I walked, and then Kevin from Fairy Bricks replied and said it's so cool to sort of follow your walk. I posted my position on Google Maps so they could follow me through my phone where I was. And then when I got back home, he said, while you've been out walking, I have prepared this two big boxes, a big box of Lego sets that you could donate to your local hospital. So I'll send this to you now. But got to meet some of the nurses and gave them the sets, and got this really warm, fuzzy feeling inside that's that I didn't sort of expect. I mean, I expected that I'd be able to raise money, and that was going to be a good thing. But that was sort of I got like a concrete, tangible thing that really came as a consequence of my walking, which is a really, really good thing to experience.
You've also had some really collectible, larger sets, one of which I believe you returned to a local toy store. Could you tell us a little bit about this?
When I got back into Lego, I basically went on a shopping spree, which I think is probably something that people can relate to.
Yes.
And I bought some stuff that I eventually didn't end up even building because space is an issue, which I think is also something that people can relate to. So I, among other things, I bought a Taj Mahal, the first issue of the Taj Mahal, which is just huge, as is the second issue because it's the same. But I didn't have any space to display it, so I never ended up building it. It just sat in the corner of my bedroom for a really long time, and then I walked into a local toy store that was after it had been retired, and I saw they had one on the shelf. And it was priced at 8,000 Norwegian kroner.
It's just under 1,400 Australian dollars, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So I thought there's no point in having that kind of money sitting in my bedroom. And they said, well, we don't buy things from people, but if you would give it to us, we would give you a credit note for 8,000 Norwegian kroner. And I thought, well, it's a good deal, because every now and then I need some Lego. I don't normally buy my Lego at full price, but if I had like a credit note for 8,000 kroner, I could probably spend years just chipping away. It's a good idea. So I did that. I walked back out of the store with a giant credit note of 8,000 kroner.
Thank you so much, Ara.
Thank you for having me.
Keep an eye on this playlist, subscribe and set reminders so you don't miss a thing for Brickvention Online.